So, Vasundhara, let me ask you my first question. What was the biggest surprise in writing that first book? Something that you weren't expecting and it just happened.
So, yeah, we'll exchange. Yeah. I think one of the biggest surprises that I had was when I first started writing, not so seriously. I was 13 and I had no idea about how the publishing world worked. I had no idea about how to reach publishers, how to get an agent. None of that was easily available. I think the biggest surprise was how accessible it was for me to find this information. And that actually gave me more confidence to finish my book. Because if you read my bio, I've said that I'm the queen of procrastination. So just the fact that the possibility of being published was easier, the chances were higher, that single-handedly made it doable for me. The fact that that was more of a motivator than anything else was a surprise.
Okay. All right. So anything in the writing process that surprised you? I mean, some characters that you invented on the go or something that wasn't expected when you started writing?
I think that when it comes to surprises in writing, I know most authors differ from each other's opinion. We have very different opinions, but a lot of them will agree with me in the sense that your character will tell you where they want to go. You can write how much ever you want, but I feel like your characters, even though they are figments of your imagination, they have a certain level of free will. And there are certain aspects in my book that were not planned. I had planned quite the opposite. And for some reason, I felt like this character wants to do this. So I feel like my characters surprised me. And then I had to rewrite about 80,000 words because I felt like this is not something my character would do, that she's telling me something different. That was surprising, yes.
Thanks.
Vasundhara, The Accused is your debut novel, and it explores crime at a very intimate psychological level. So how did technology influence the structure and the pacing of your book?
Structure and pacing. I think everybody that I've watched so far in this event today, in the Lit Fest today, has mentioned Gen Z. And I wouldn't necessarily say Gen Z has changed my writing, but they have changed my pacing. So originally, each chapter was about 20, 30 pages long. But because of TikTok and Instagram and all of these things, the attention span of people is so short that I kind of sped up my writing. And I sped up each chapter, making it shorter and shorter to keep people's attention. So while technology didn't change my writing, it has caused a butterfly effect that has changed my writing. Such a strong effect that short videos are more important than longer videos. Real content is more important. People can't sit through an entire film. If a film is more than 2 hours, they complain about it. So my chapters have become so short so that they keep feeling like, they're making progress.
And I think that would be one of the reasons why even a long book will be very interesting for people to read, because the chapters are short.
Yes.
And also, Vasundhara, did you use tools like mind mapping and plotting to track motives, timelines, or the emotional arcs of the characters while writing the book?
I did. I have a lot of friends who are either therapists or psychologists or counselors, and they keep talking about new research, and I've therefore become very interested from a young age in psychology and psychiatry and the human mindset. So for me, I chose what happened to the character, and then I started reading like scientific journals, and like Nitish sir said, I put those 30-page long PDF research papers into Perplexity, and I was like, summarize this for me, please, in normal person language. So I used a lot of that to figure out, okay, X has happened to my character. What is the most common way that they will react? And how will that change their behavior? That is what I've done. And this is actually very interesting because not only can you mind map, like I use an app called Obsidian to keep track of my characters, all that. It's an open source app, which is what I prefer to use, because rather, what if something disappears one day? This is locally saved. So I'm very particular about that. So there are other apps as well to track of like, your locations and all of that, and like, recreating scenes and all. So I find that these things help me a lot in picturing exactly the location where the crime happened, what the mindset was of the character when it happened, what the mindset of the investigators would be. It really helped. All of these things really did help.
So, did you learn these apps before writing, or it just happened during the process?
I was a bit of a Luddite. I wrote everything in a notebook, and then I left my notebook in my sister's house and traveled. So I had to keep something locally. So that's when I switched to these apps, and I was like, this is actually really easy. I can save it across devices. I still have a notebook, but once I finished writing, I thought, put it in the software. I learned the software in the middle of my book.
That's interesting. Vasundhara, many actors transition into writing. Completing a first book, it's a huge leap. So what was the toughest part of that journey for you?
Not getting my characters confused with the characters I'm playing. Because I write in my shooting spot. Because we take so long for the shot to get ready that I sit in my caravan and I write. And I shouldn't let the dialogues I'm memorizing affect what I'm writing. That was very hard.
I know that's a very difficult switch that you make in between the breaks and write. So do you think all these digital apps and tools like mind mapping, VR, access to experts, they actually make writing easier, or do they sometimes add more pressure? What is your take on it?
I think it's very time sensitive these days to have an idea and write. And while you may be enamored with all these apps, you could also end up spending a lot of time on it instead of actually writing. A tool is only a tool if it's helpful, not if it's a distraction. So,
but process-wise, do you want?
that's
Yeah. So, do you think it's making the process easier? I mean, I agree with you that it might take longer to finish a book, but how about the process?
See, it doesn't necessarily make the process easier for everybody because, like I said, for me, I used a gaming software. For example, does anybody play Minecraft, or have you heard of Minecraft? So if you play Minecraft and you decide that instead of using like an architectural software that you're going to build your location in Minecraft, you're not going to finish your book. You're going to be playing Minecraft. So it depends on what software you use. Like, for example, when I wrote my first book, which didn't get published, I didn't finish it. I downloaded Sims. I decided to build this apartment in Sims. And then I spent about 8 hours a day playing Sims. I didn't write. So for me, it depends exactly on the tool. For example, Obsidian, it works offline. So when I write, I take my laptop with me to a cafe and I disconnect from the Wi-Fi and I work there. But for me, if it connected online, I would be like, okay, what about this? What about this? And I'll start searching the internet. I'll get distracted and go off into a rabbit hole. So it is a tool. It is very useful. It is also a distraction. It makes the process easier, but it can also make the process not happen at all. Depends on how you use it.
Depends. And it reminds me, one of my favorite quotes from Stephen King. He said that you write with the door closed and edit with the door open.
Yeah.
I think in digital sense, it applies more.
Yeah, I actually just made a reel recommending 3 of 6 books that I read when I was writing my book. And Stephen King's On Writing was the first one that I recommended. I followed his technique. I locked the door, tell everybody to get lost, switch off my phone, and I worked.
That's the way to go, I believe, yes. Now, Vasundhara, was there any specific cybercrime or technology trend that inspired a scene or character in the book?
It did. We were talking about this, yeah. One of the things I find really interesting, okay, so how many people here are on like Instagram or Reddit or Twitter or Facebook or whatever? I think everybody would be there, yeah? How many times have you read a news article that is different from what you first read, or like a post or a comment? Can you maybe say that in Hindi? Because I think some of them don't understand me.
Oh, can you repeat the question, Swifus?
How many people have read a comment or a happening of an event, but it's different each time? Like each time somebody writes it, it's different.
The same comments?
The same news.
Okay.
Like say this person came at 7 o'clock and the next post will be this person came at 7:30. Next person will be, this person didn't come at all. How do you know which is true? That is exactly what inspired me. Because each person thinks they know what happened. Nobody knows what happened except those who were present or who did whatever they did. So when you think about it, you go on the internet, you go on Twitter, and on Twitter, somebody shares news. Let's say a news channel shares news. All the comments will be kind of moral posturing, but the same people will be completely different on another platform or on their own thing. So when my book launch happened, I was talking about how I'd gone on Reddit just to see something about some local news. And somebody had commented, like, I'm a 20-year-old woman and I agree with you. So I clicked on the person's profile because the punctuation language was all too proper for them to be Gen Z. Like, it was not, no slang, nothing, very, very proper.
Hope this.
When I clicked on their profile, another comment, I'm a 47-year-old man. तो आप कौन हो? Like, are you a 20-year-old woman or are you a 47? Just basically because you want to change the tide of what is happening. आपके mood के मर्जी में. You wanna, like, just write whatever. What if somebody believes something you said? What happens to them? So that not necessarily a single event, but going through lists of these comments and like posts and all, I was like, what the hell is happening here? Like, none of this is true. What are you writing? That was what, yeah.
So,